Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm Courtney.
And I'm MK. I need to stop drinking while you're doing the intro. I do that
Every time. Every time, just chug some coffee and go. It's fine.
Great.
It's fine.
We're great.
Yeah. So how are you, though?
I am so good. I'm getting ready for my trip to London. So I have really nothing else to talk about. I could tell you all the things that we're going to do in London, but I'd rather just wait till we get back and use my trip to London as the next 5 podcasts worth of information of things to tell you because nothing else good will happen. So instead,
it'll be a long episode anyway. So
right. So instead, I'm going to give you guys some deco updates because, as you know, school's over and done. That means I don't have a classroom at the moment. So I had to bring Pip home.
So you have a new roommate.
I have a new roommate. And so it was very stressful. I let Pip crawl on me all the time. I'll just take her out and put her on my chest and she'll crawl up on my hair, on my arms, whatever. I don't care. So then when we took out her tank and cleaned out everything, I sat her on my chest, and then Dan and I were carrying things out to the car, and we walked outside, and it was so sunny that day that she immediately started panicking and trying to run anywhere she could that was dark while I'm carrying things outside. So I was wearing overalls that day, so I put her in my overall pocket and I'm pushed it closed so that it would be dark in there. And then I just carried her in my overall pocket for the rest of the day. And then I drove home with her in my overall pocket, which was great until she realized that it wasn't as dark anymore and tried to crawl all over me while I was driving. And I was like, not today, Satan. So then I brought her home and I set everything up here and I got it all and I put new soil in and I tried to feed her and I tried to turn everything on and she absolutely refused to eat. Which is fair. She was stressed out and it was a new environment and whatever. And then I wasn't home for 3 days.
Aww.
Because I was just so busy doing other things and getting ready and I was never really, really home. So then yesterday was the first day that I spent the whole day at home. So I brought her out and I was letting her crawl on me while I was doing laundry. And then I let her crawl all over my bed and she was so excited because there were so many blankets and so many things to climb on top of and explore. And she was just living her best life. And she finally ate this morning. And I just, between us recording podcast episodes, I just went down and made sure that the daytime lights were off and so that it was dark in her tank. And as soon as all the lights were off, she popped her head out of her hide and was ready to explore. And so she's doing great and she's happy and I love her.
I love that.
That. My little girl. I actually almost brought her out and had her join us on the podcast, but I didn't.
Show and tell.
Yeah, maybe next time when it's not going to be as long of an episode.
Sure. Yeah. Fair. Well, I have a pup date. Started out strong, I know. So my little Sadie, bless her heart, you've probably heard through the podcast. I know I've told you she sometimes has tummy issues.
Yeah.
And they're always at the most inconvenient time.
Of course.
So we went to bed late last night because I just had stuff to prepare for this morning. My love, Sadie Bell woke me up at 4:30 this morning. Meanwhile, it's not a short day. It's not like I could come home and just go to bed for 3 hours. No. And she keeps me up the whole morning. So I ended up getting Chick-fil-A because I was like, well, now I'm awake. I'm starving. Yeah. I'm thirsty. I need coffee. So I got a frosted coffee. I got a sweet tea. And I got chicken minis and hash browns. And I was like, this is just who I am now. I had to wait for Chick-fil-A to open. It was a whole thing. When I have to wait for a breakfast place to open, I feel like I am in the wrong world.
Correct.
And so I made it to work. I made it through the day without dying. I did. I'm training Noelle still. She's in our new royalties position. I don't know if I told you, but she got hired on in the royalties position, and so I've been training her. And today she was doing like some one-off statements, so I don't have to do a lot. I just had to kind of
Yeah.
be there. And I
Right.
just like ended up like sitting back in my chair and reading my book. And I was like, I just can't. I was like, I just need a minute to breathe.
Yeah. I get it.
So it's been a whirlwind, and this whole week it was kind of a whirlwind. Like I went to the bar for the first time since I quit on Saturday night, and it was so lovely. I miss those people so much. Like
You
I didn't leave
don't
till 3
you don't
a.m.
miss the stress though. You do not miss the stress.
No, like they had a wedding party that night, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna sit up front and just like talk to
Nah.
people.
Yeah.
I'm gonna not go back there at all. It's like, but good luck. I hope you make a lot of money. So it was nice being there and not having to do anything, but also just like getting to see people that I've been around for the past 2 years that I don't see every week anymore. So
Yeah.
it was nice. I mean, I'm gonna have to go back more often just because it makes me sad not to.
Yeah.
But you know what keeps me from being too sad? My
What would that
spirituality.
be?
My spirituality.
Well,
So if you
today
help me out.
we're going to keep it short and we're going to keep it simple. Don't forget to love yourself.
So true. So true.
Soren Kierkegaard is who I got that quote from. But yeah,
Who was it? Can you repeat that?
Soren Kierkegaard.
I don't think I know them.
I don't either. I just found it on a quote website.
Sure.
So,
But,
I'm
it's
sure,
fine.
and I'm sure a lot of other people have said some other variation of making sure you don't forget
Of
to love
course.
yourself. But
Yep. So that is absolutely true. And I think that's valid today because I always love a good horror wrap up. I don't know why these episodes just bring me so much joy to my heart. And so here we are today to do the wrap up of American Horror Story season 1. I think it's just because like we get to talk about the horror again and we get to announce what movie we're gonna watch in the break. So stay tuned for that.
also, just business. We are not doing DNA awards for American Horror Story, in case anyone was wondering about that. It's just too short, and it's kind of really a filler thing that we're just doing for fun between shows. So we will not be giving it awards, even though for Stargate we're giving it 57 DNA awards. It's just
it has 57 times as many episodes, so you know it tracks. Yeah, so this is just going to kind of be an all-in-one. We'll have some discussion about things that were good, things that were bad, and some fun facts as always. So, yeah, this season was absolutely a wild one. Do you have like a summary feeling of how you felt about it before I dive in?
So, as we all know, I had never seen any American Horror Story before. I don't know. I know that my delving into horror is a newer thing in my life. It really wasn't until I was in college that I even started watching horror movies at all. And I genuinely had no interest in watching American Horror Story because I thought it would be too scary. And I don't think it is scary. I think I have a hard time with the word horror because I think it means so many different things at this point. But because I've only maybe 1 or 2 times did I find the show genuinely scary. I found it like dark. I found it creepy.
Yeah.
I found it like suspenseful, but I didn't really find it scary.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's
one of the beautiful things about the horror genre is it is so expansive because you have like horror comedies and stuff too that aren't like Shaun of the Dead is not scary by any means, but it's still, you know, under that umbrella.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's my overall takeaway is that it was much more true artistic storytelling than I was expecting because I was just expecting to be scared.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's a special one. It's a good one. I mean, we were familiar with Brian Murphy and Brad Falchuk from, you know, Glee, etc. We had Glee. Ryan Murphy did Nip Tuck. They've done, I think they did like another like mini series or a film
I
together.
don't know. I mean, I had obviously it came out after American Horror Story, but I had already seen the assassination of Gianni Versace.
Right, yeah, which I still haven't seen. Yeah. So this is going to be a bit of a different format than if if you're just joining us for American Horror Story. We do it a little bit differently for our wrap ups. So I'm going to give you some kind of like behind the scenes stuff to start. A little bit about casting, a little bit about production, etc. So as we said, Ryan Murphy and Brad Falchuk essentially created the show. I mean, it's Ryan Murphy's baby, but Brad Falchuk is hand in hand.
Yeah.
And so he's a huge horror buff. And so he based the show around a show called Dark Shadows that I did not know existed, but apparently is very popular in the world. I also
Dark Shadows isn't Dark Shadows the one that
not what
like
we do in the shadows.
No. Dark Shadows is like a campy vampire show, like from the I want to say the 60s or 70s, where it's dark, but it's also kind of more like a soap opera. And then
that sounds correct.
And then they made a movie that was like basically some of the stories from the first season of the original show, and it was with Johnny Depp in I don't remember like the 2017 or 18. That I'm thinking of the correct thing, right?
I think so. I didn't look it up because I meant to and got distracted, as you can imagine. So yeah, that was his like main influence. Yeah, it was Tim Burton, the Johnny Depp, Michelle Pfeiffer, Helena Bonham Carter,
but
came out in 2012.
Yes, but the 1966 Dark Shadows it's actually classified as a soap opera. It's a soap opera, but it's about vampires.
Yes. So it makes me super interested in it. I definitely want to watch it. So he based it around Dark Shadows.
If it's anything like the movie was campier because it was Tim Burton. Sure. But if it's anything like the characters from the movie, I'm sure it's fantastic. Like as long as you know you're getting into it. As long as you know you're getting into a 1960s soap opera.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the big ones. And then, of course, he modeled it off Rosemary's Baby, Don't Look Now, Amityville Horror, and Kubrick's The Shining. So, like, very classic horror films. Yeah. So that's where we get a lot of these, like, traditional tropes from that we see throughout the season. And then to get in the cast a bit more, this was actually Jessica Lange's first regular role in television. She's obviously been around for a bit and has done quite a few things. And she's gotten, I was reading some of the interviews, she's actually gotten quite a few offers to do television work, but because the network stuff, or vice versa, whichever one, if it's network, I think it's the network stuff was lasting too long, or maybe it was the cable stuff lasted too long, and so her schedule never lined up.
No, it's network. Network TV shows tend to have the 22, 25 episode seasons, and you get like multi-season contracts to begin with, whereas cable shows are your 10, 12, 15 episode things.
Right. And so this was the first one that she actually agreed to because it did run, shorter. So we had 12 episodes instead of 25.
Yeah.
And then Dylan McDermott, who plays Ben Harmon, he was cast in the role next, and he actually took this role because he didn't want to be known as the guy from The Practice anymore, because that's how everyone knew him, and he didn't want to be known for that anymore. And now he is
from American Horror
Story. He is now the guy from American Horror Story. Yep. And then the house itself was previously used as a convent. When it was created, like, it said 1916. I didn't write down the date, but I think it was 1916. And so all of these exterior shots are angled to where you can't see the chapel. Like the chapel is still there, but you just can't see it.
That is phenomenal. I'm obsessed with that.
Yeah, and for this show, they did a replica that they filmed, obviously, off location, like on their own location, not at the house itself. But the pilot was shot in the original location, the house that was built in 1916. And so it was just moving forward. that it wasn't.
Well, probably any of the times that they had to do the murder house tour, anytime they had cars like outside and you were looking at the street, that was probably on that would I could tell was studio because they don't.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It would be too hard to, especially like in LA. Yeah. Um, and so also originally there were meant to be 13 episodes. I'm sure for the effect of being 13.
Yeah.
And the 13th episode was meant to be 30 minutes shorter than the average episode. But
so what, 15 minutes?
I like maybe 20. Like some of them went 40, 42 to 50, depending on the episode. But yeah, it's like super short. And then they decided against that. And so they ended up just adding 10 minutes longer. So it ended up being 52 minutes instead of 42 minutes on the finale.
So basically they were going to have that 3 years later thing be a totally separate episode.
Yeah.
Which would have been stupid because nobody would have cared because they would have wrapped up the story and then unwrapped it and I would have hated it.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And especially being so short, like it wouldn't have made any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I want to talk about the title sequence because for those of you who are American Horror Story fans and have watched multiple seasons, you'll know that there's always hints to the entire season in that title sequence. So it was created by Kyle Cooper. He's also known for doing the title sequence for The Walking Dead and the movie Seven.
Okay.
But Ryan Murphy works on it to create it essentially as a mini mystery to the series. So I've got a list of all of the things that are included in the opening sequence that you could have potentially tied to something else. He did set it up to where after the 9th episode, you will have figured it all out. Like everything that's in the title sequence is shown by the 9th episode. So the last like 3 are not included. So, that's not the one I need. And this is kind of in, gosh, I'm sorry. I've lost my screenshots. Screenshots. Okay. So, I'm so sorry. This is I was prepared and then I tried to search for Dark Shadows and got off of it. Okay. So you start in the basement. Obviously, that is very, very clear cut
Right.
what it is. Next up, you see the hole in the floor. And while it's creepy in its own right, this is actually where Thaddeus, who becomes known as Infantata, once they have been created as a new creature, hides throughout the whole series.
Right.
They're hiding under there. So you see that. And also is Violet's final resting place. Right. And so it's meant to be kind of a key to all of that. You see bloody medical equipment, which obviously references Dr. Montgomery.
Yeah.
You see a man with plastic wrap around his head, which is how Joe Eskandarian died.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm. There are flames, which are meant to represent Lorraine and the children dying.
Yeah.
And there are old pictures of toddlers, and they're approximately all taken from 1890 to 1930. Some of them which are burning, and some of these are post-mortem pictures, which obviously would be set up with the abortion clinic that was set with Dr. Montgomery.
Right. I feel like a lot of it was very like there was double meanings to some of it, but a lot of it was very obviously like Charles Montgomery and what the basement was on the surface, because that is the root of the evil in the house in a way.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, the Montgomerys built that house. And so they were the start of all of this.
Right. So Dr. Montgomery is like the root of all of the evil in the house.
Yes. Which is, if you recall in real life, the podcast about Dr. Hodel is called Root of Evil or something.
Yeah.
So it kind of ties into that storyline. There are jars with both human and pig fetuses, and these could either be from Dr. Montgomery's like experiments, but it also kind of ties into the Piggy episode, which is the urban legend.
Honestly, I gotta say, now that we've seen the whole show, I dislike that episode even more because there's no payoff in the end. Like I fell in love with this poor man and then he died and there was no payoff in the end.
Yep. Absolutely. Their chains, those reference Bo, who's been chained up in the attic. There are a lot of like dead men in plastic, which are all like references to Joe Eskandarian. There's a man with the bloody hedge clippers, which is meant to be a reference to Black Dahlia.
Okay.
There's a baptism gown, which is the reference to Infantata. And last but not least, there are 3 skeletons, and that's meant to represent the Harmon family after death. So you have your full span of the TV show in the credits. And it's something that I always enjoy trying to figure out when a new season comes out, and I have yet been able to do it. Like it's so hard. So in the seasons we watch moving forward, you should pay attention to the credits, see if you can figure anything out. So next up, I have, as we always do, some reviews. A few from reputable sources, and then I have some others. So I start with Metacritic. It was given the meta score was a 65, and it was for the whole season. It may be 6.5. I wrote these last night.
It would be
because the meta score is usually okay.
No, it's 65 out of 100, like or 6.5 out of 10. It's like a percentage, yeah.
Right. And Glenn Garvin of Miami Herald said it was repellent and fascinating. Tom Gliato of People gave it an 88. He said it's funny and moves blindingly fast, barely giving you time to blink or gulp. Dark shadows for the PlayStation age, which was like
I don't hate that review at all. I don't hate that review at all.
I was like, now I need to go watch Dark Shadows so I can understand like how far removed it is. I mean, obviously I'm familiar with the time period, so like I get it.
Yeah.
Entertainment Weekly's Ken Tucker said American Horror Story is pretty much all scare all the time. A whole lot of screams, sex, jolts, mashed faces, psychotic behavior, and dead babies. Just like
didn't scream. I never once screamed. I was never once genuinely terrified. The only moment of the entire show that actually truly shook me was Violet.
Yeah. Everything else you can like get there, or you're not surprised that that's where it went.
Right.
But Violet is definitely the one that like I think gets everyone a little bit.
I think finding out Tate was Rubber Man was also kind of fucked, but
it was wild, but it wasn't like that one definitely caught me off guard, but it wasn't as catching as Violet.
No, it was not the same at all.
Mm-hmm. And we had less emotion. We already didn't like him for other reasons, even though we had this weird feeling about him. Whereas with Violet, like she was an annoying teenager, but we didn't want bad things for her.
Right.
So it's a bit different. Rob Owen?
Oh no, I'll tell you the only time I was actually scared. The only time I was genuinely scared was the whole sequence of Vivian eating all of the fucking raw organs. That was disgusting and horrifying. That was truly horrifying to me.
That one really bothered you.
I don't.
That's so funny.
Oh, I
feel like I'm not as bothered by that, but I get it. Yeah. Rob Owen of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette scored at 50, so like in the middle. And he said, "You may not come away knowing whether you like it, but you won't be bored." And I was like,
valid.
Also not wrong.
Right.
Like, I would have given it more than a 50, but your statement's not incorrect.
Nope.
And then I moved on to Rotten Tomatoes, which it was a 72% Rotten Tomato score for the season, 84% audience rating. The consensus of Rotten Tomatoes said it was convoluted yet effective. American Horror Story is strange, gory, and twisted enough to keep viewers hooked.
There. So, I don't think that's incorrect.
Yeah, I agree. I was very impressed by Rotten Tomatoes consensus. I was like, oh, okay, yeah. I'll take that from you. So I have a couple of watcher reviews, and then I have something else. Um, so as a preface, IMDb reviewers are unhinged.
Oh, for sure.
As a whole.
Correct.
And I've never felt more like that than reading these reviews for this. Like, I went through every review for every episode of the season. One person complained about them using Croatoan as a spell. And I was like, that's actually quite clever to include that. I was like, one, they're referencing a future season that they kind of like have in the works. And also, like, that is part of the history.
Right.
Like, it shows they did their research. And like, it kind of sounds dumb because it's just like as a word, but it's the only word that kind of makes sense in the way they're trying to use it. Right. So I was like, okay, well, that's a stretch, but fine. Like, if that's your one problem, fine. One person commented that it's the worst episode of any show I've ever seen, and I've been watching TV my whole life.
Have you? Wow, I'm so impressed. What else is on your resume?
I know. I was like, how old are you? What have you been watching? Like, I need more than, like, we've all been watching TV our whole life. Like,
yeah, unless you're 100 years old and you didn't have a TV.
Sure. So here's the thing. This review was left at the very bottom of episode 1. No rating was given, just words. And I had to summarize some pieces because it was very long. So if you are so inclined to read more into this, feel free. It's the end of the IMDb reviews of episode 1 with no rating. It starts. Warning. This is one of my critic experiments, so deciphering it shall be relatively challenging.
Oh, fuck you.
That's the disclaimer. And I was like, yeah, that's what we want. This is exactly what we want from a review. Great.
Correct.
Now for the review. Dear Diary, I know everything. That's how it starts. There's a paragraph about Brad and Ryan bringing this idea to him. There's discussion of how he knows Jessica and Dylan, like, intimately, like he's part of the process. And then he like goes to reference was it Dylan McDermott? And he says, I read John Noble as his mentor, so I suspect they were actually filming a spinoff of Fringe, starring him as a young Peter Bishop. It's only a theory, but I'm rarely wrong.
That would be the worst idea ever. I'm sorry. As someone who loves John Noble and whose favorite show is Fringe and who is deeply obsessed with Peter Bishop, I would love nothing more than a spinoff where we looked at the life of a young Peter Bishop. Dylan McDermott would be the worst choice. And that is nothing.
I don't know anything about this.
That's nothing against Dylan McDermott's acting at all. Just not correct at all.
Yeah. I didn't understand the connection. I don't know if Fringe has anything to do with American Horror Story.
It doesn't. This at all.
Person has just brought it into their review. Meanwhile, I'm on like the 5th paragraph at this point. Like, I've skipped quite a bit to get here. They said the hypnotic opening title of the best new horror story in America has just ended, so it's time for me to vanish before someone noticed my presence. Wicked night. That's how they ended.
What the actual fuck?
When I tell you they are unhinged, like, reading through it, it's like, is this a person who's like one of those like insane people who thinks they're in this like these relationships with these like famous people?
Right.
Is this a person who thinks they're a ghost and is surrounding these people and therefore they're hiding away? Or is this a person trying to experiment, like they said it was an experiment, with trying to write from that perspective to make it a story as opposed to a review?
Right. Which episode did you say this was on?
Episode 1, very bottom.
Okay. It is not showing up on the very bottom of mine.
Hmm.
Hold on.
I don't know. Did you went to the IMDb
Sort,
like
yeah,
reviewers?
hold on. Sort by review rating. Go all
Yeah.
the way
Oh,
to.
do that. Yeah, because there's no rating on it, so that's why it's at the bottom.
Oh, oh wow.
Yeah. So they didn't even leave a star of sorts.
My mind has survived for centuries, so my imagination is nearly unlimited. The actual fuck?
I was like, I feel like I should report this to someone. Like this, but it's probably been too long. Like this person has found another way out. Like it was. Is this not the strangest review you've ever seen in your life? Like I had an existential crisis while reading it. For those of you wondering, Mary Kate is currently reading the entire thing to see, and like her face is, if you're watching, correct. This is how you will feel if you read it as well.
Okay, he's now gone on to say that his best friend in childhood was Freddy Krueger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm not
What?
sure if he's deranged or it's a writing choice. Like he's trying to write a story of sorts. Although why this
Oh,
is where you would do it, I don't know. But
no, but like he's actually insane. Like, um, I remember the first one I recognized was Jessica Lange because I had already met her 35 years ago on a tropical island. But then I remember she
yeah.
was dating some big, hairy, sniffy guy. Now, for some reason, they keep calling her Constance, but I know that's Jessica.
So
Mm.
like also I think because one of the references with Dylan McDermott he makes, I think he's trying to reference like their original roles in Hollywood, like the first role they played. But I didn't know what her first role was. But the more I was reading into it, I was like, is this meant to be like a callback to like what they
I
first
don't.
worked on?
I
Like,
did someone put that in there as like a piece of um like like an Easter egg for something in the future, or is someone just absolutely batshit crazy?
I mean, I have watched 11 seasons of this show and I've watched the stories. Well,
Yeah.
season one and half of season two of the stories, and this means nothing to me. Like, at all. It is just unhinged. Like that's all I can make of
Okay.
it.
To be fair, Jessica Lange's very, very, very first role in Hollywood was in King Kong.
So a very hairy man. So that makes sense. Like
Yeah. And then what is
so it's a
Dylan
reference
McDermott?
to the original role.
So then what
I
is
don't
Dylan
remember.
McDermott's?
I I uh I don't have my phone because I'm recording with it. So I don't
Oh my
remember
God.
what he said, but it was Jessica Lange. I think it was Dylan
Well,
McDermott
and
was
then
the other one
Dylan
he referenced.
McDermott, the Dylan McDermott, that's when he started talking about Peter or John Noble and Peter
Right.
Bishop,
Yeah. Um
which, so his first role was, that's so weird. This is completely unrelated. His first role was in a show called 3 Pounds.
which
No, I
is
lied. No, no, no. His first role was in Hamburger Hill. Um,
Hamburger Hill.
yeah, Hamburger Hill, which is a
Hill. I thought
movie.
you said hell.
No, but that it looks like no one has ever watched. No, he was in a show called 3 Pounds, which started in 2006. Oh, it's listed last on his IMDb because it was unaired. It never existed. He
Okay.
played a doctor named Dr. Douglas Hanson.
Right.
I don't know if you know, but Doug's last name is Hannon.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so that was really weird for me for a second there.
So did Doug write
Um,
this review?
I'm gonna go ahead and say he did. I mean, he is a writer.
Well, I mean, that's what it sounds like to me. I mean,
Hold on. I'm gonna write Dylan McDermott, John Noble, and put them both in a Google search and see what comes up. Oh, okay. The Blue Iguana was a parody of a film noir, which was the second thing Dylan McDermott was ever credited in, was him and John Noble. Someone is on absolute crack.
Right. So they've like gone out of their way
to be batshit crazy. Like that took me like 7 minutes to find just to interpret what they wrote, let alone come up with something like that to write.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a writer. I'm not writing that. And if I'm going to write, like, sure, writers write in exercises that have similar vibes, not on message boards, not on rating boards. It's within writing groups or for personal review. Like,
I feel like I need to ask Doug some serious questions now.
We should have kept him on. For those of you who don't know, he was in our SG1 wrap up on Sunday. We should have just held him on and made him sit through this one with us.
Yeah. Or at least maybe he could have interpreted it. Because I don't know what the fuck any of that was.
It sent me into a spiral last night. Like, I was glad I read it last night, not today, because it sent me into a spiral and I needed a minute before
I just read it live on air, and so I don't know if I'll be okay for the entire rest of the podcast. So
yeah. It's a tough one. It's a tough one to go on. But go on we must. Signs at Wicked Night. No name, just Wicked Night, comma, like you're doing like best. Yeah. Wild.
I don't like anything about that. Like, that's scarier to me than the show.
Yeah. Yeah. So, as you can imagine, getting into the awards section, it was nominated for 65 awards for this year. It won 19 of them. So, some of the highlights, obviously, I am not going to go piece by piece because that is a lot. However, the very first award on the list was IGN's Best Of, and it won Best Sci-Fi Horror Show.
Wow.
Which was fun. And I was like, well, we're crossing our worlds now. Jessica Lange won everything for outstanding female drama. Yeah, she just won all of them. She was even up against Frances Conroy in one of them, and she won it. The best screenplay was Jessica Sharzer. I meant to look up which one she wrote. I mean, she wrote on, I think, 3 of them. But I didn't remember exactly which ones. Do you happen to know off the top of your head? I know this is not your purview.
No, wait, who is this?
Jessica Sharzer. Okay, so she did Piggy Piggy. That may have been her first one. Which everyone that was on the Piggy Piggy episode came back. So Jessica Sharzer did that one. And
wait, she's a writer or a producer?
She's a writer.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was her first one, I believe. And then she was on another one I know.
Here, hold on. I'm looking at her. She wrote. Why can I not? An American Horror. Oh, here we go. She wrote Piggy Piggy and Afterbirth.
Yes. So I don't know what it was, but literally everyone, the writers, the directors, the editors, a lot of it, Piggy Piggy was their first episode, and then they all came back for more. And I agree with you. It was my least favorite of the season.
Also, I just looked at her IMDb to figure out what episodes it was. She wrote the movie A Simple Favor. Did you ever watch that?
The what?
A Simple Favor.
Yeah.
Fucking love that movie.
She wrote the screenplay for it?
Yeah.
I love that. I don't know that I don't think I've ever read the book, but I've seen it.
I've never read the book, but I would like to because I fucking love that movie.
Yeah, it's one that I kind of go back to every couple of years and like rewatch it because it's good every time. And I mean, Blake Lively, my God, can never go wrong, Blake Lively.
Truly.
Yeah, so she's incredible. She won the best writing or best screenplay at the Bram Stoker Awards. Jessica Lange won for she got an Emmy for it. Outstanding. What does that say?
Do not know.
I don't know. I can't read my own handwriting. Hairstyling, my gosh. Outstanding hairstyling for a miniseries or movie. They won the Emmy for that. She also won a Golden Globe. And then they won like 6 awards for the Online Film and TV Association Awards. And
nice.
Yeah, and then the only new one was they won the best new title sequence in that same award ceremony. And then for the PAAFTJ TV Awards, it was the first year of it. Mark Washington won for best production design. That was the only thing that kind of differed from Ryan Murphy, Jessica Lange, and overall as a film winning, because it just won like every award.
Okay.
Yeah. So before we get into our discussion a bit more, I have some questions for you, but I have fun facts first.
Okay. So I will take on.
As we talked about, Ryan Murphy wrote Glee before this.
Yeah.
Basically directly before. And so he was really sick of Glee, it seems, by the end of it. Because he came out and he said, I can't write any more nice speeches for these Glee kids. Which is how we got American Horror Story. Because he can no longer write nice things.
Okay. So I'm just going to say it. I was having this conversation with someone the other day. Glee was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
At the time when it was on, it was a great show. I loved every second of it. Now, I'm not going to lie, looking back as an adult, Mr. Shu was kind of fucking creepy. Probably not an appropriate behavior for an adult, but like it didn't feel weird watching it. Also, all the conspiracy theories behind everybody who died from that show really fucked me up because they're way, way too accurate, and it makes me really uncomfortable. And I think Leah Michelle can't read, so
yeah, I think like Alex Newell got out unscathed they've been through a lot. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But like in the sense of Glee.
Did you see all the pictures that came out after the Tonys that were like Alex Newell won a Tony before Leah Michelle?
Yes. They're like bags and memes, and I laughed so hard. So I have my theater nonprofit, so I sent it to Noelle, and she's like, we should post this on the page. I was like, absolutely not. I was like, we are a professional organization. I was like, I'm sending it to you because I'm not posting it on our professional site. Like, but thank you for the appreciation. No, it was, oh god, I cried.
Yeah.
So well deserved.
No, but like Glee was great. I mean, by the end, I got it. I do.
But by the end, I mean, people had died. It was like people were not nice to each other anymore. Like, I mean, not that they, there have been plenty of rumors swirling about how Leah Michelle treated people throughout, but I think it just like got worse.
Yeah.
Over time.
No.
People died. People got arrested. It's not a good scene.
People got arrested and then died.
Yep. So, yeah, you talk about like Disney and Nickelodeon kids, like they just get on drugs and go to rehab and then come out on the other end. Like the Glee kids really didn't come out so hot.
I mean, some of them haven't really come up on the other end. I think Orlando Brown's still kind of fucked up.
Yeah, that's true. But he's got some time. Like he's still alive. So
yeah, that's true.
Could come out on the other end. I mean, it took Amanda Bynes like 10 years.
Oh,
years,
she's not. She's not doing. I mean, she's not well right now.
She's not great. I mean, I'm not Amanda Bynes. Lindsay Lohan. She's
because Amanda Bynes is back at the bottom. She was coming out of it, and now it's not doing well.
Yeah, Lindsay Lohan's kind of coming back on her out on her own, which is nice to see that people are becoming people again. So to get away from Glee too fast, Ryan Murphy wanted guess who he wanted to play Emma Pillsbury. Like if you just had a wild guess.
Wait, what character?
Emma. Miss
Who's
Pillsbury.
Emma?
The one who Mr. Shoe dates.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were talking about a character in American Horror Story for a second, and I was like, there's no one named that. Who did he want to play Emma? I have no idea.
Sarah Paulson.
That would have been awful on every level.
She is too much of a strong personality.
Yeah, no, like that would have been so bad.
Like Miss Pillsbury is the character she is because she's so mild and meek and like
no, I would have
seeming never would Sarah Paulson.
No, it would have been awful. I'm so glad that didn't happen.
Yeah. Like I've seen her play quote unquote weak in movies and she still feels like than a lot of people. So
I think the only thing Sarah Paulson has in common with what's that sweet baby angel who played Emma? Can't remember. But that they have big eyes. Like that's literally all they have in common.
Yeah. And I mean she does play some quieter characters at some points through Horror Story, but never not powerful.
Right.
Yeah. But Jessica Lange and Sarah Paulson, this is not the first time they worked together. They were actually on Broadway together in a show that I haven't seen as a show. I've only read the play, but it's near and dear to my heart. Glass Menagerie.
That's right. They did do that.
I did not know they did that. And I would give my left arm probably to see them do that again. Like,
oh my God. Yeah, but they couldn't do that again. Sarah Paulson could not play that role anymore. She's far too old now.
I know. Maybe there's like a video somewhere. I'll try and hunt it down.
Yeah. Like not that she can't act, but but
yeah, there's an age that it's set in. You have to be young enough.
Yeah.
It's part of it is the naivety. So
yeah, but I mean, because the character is only 15, like it doesn't.
Yeah.
You can play 15 well into your 20s. You can't play 15 well into your 40s.
Right, 100%. Yeah, and like there are some roles that like even with ages you can change them around, and like if they're meant to be 15, you can make them 25 and do whatever. But like this is not one of those.
It's not one of those. No,
this is not one that would change. That would too much change the story. So for Chad and Patrick, Ryan Murphy initially wanted to cast Neil Patrick Harris and David Bertka, and they turned the role down.
Yeah, I mean, Neil and David can do anything, but that would have been a bad look for them with starting a family and they've tried really hard to stick to roles that they can at least, even if they're bad guys in the roles, it's at least like something that they wouldn't be ashamed of their kids knowing, and this is not that.
Yeah, and I completely forgot when we talked about this initially that Ryan Murphy is gay. Like, so it's not from a place of not knowing, you know?
Yeah, no, that's one of the reasons why I find it.
Didn't think to bring that up when we were talking about it.
No, that's one of the reasons why I find it so bothersome is because he is gay. The Boys in the Band is what he did with that is phenomenal. Like it's not. It sits wrong with me.
Yeah, it was kind of sad reading a lot of reviews about it because when people were talking about it, they're like, it kind of makes it feel like there's this like self-hatred that he has because of how he
portrays gay. He portrays gay characters in a way because even in the shows that are not in Glee, even in the shows that are not like Gianni Versace is more based in reality because it is a true story. Mm-hmm. But even the fictionalized characters in that, he doesn't portray gay people in a way that feels like there feels like a lot of self-esteem issues and self-worth issues in the way he portrays gay characters. It makes me really want to go back and watch like Nip Tuck to kind of see how he unfolds as a director and writer. Yeah.
because it was Nip Tuck Glee and then this and then Scream Queens, which Scream Queens is just so off the rails that like there's not even like I could even tell you who the gay characters are like, because it's just so off the rails. I'm sure there's a gay character in there,
Right.
but like, and as you see American Horror Story unfold, like I said, like it does have a different lens on it moving forward, and you do see less stereotypical, and you do see more like being more protective of gays and like being more of like telling the right stories. Like I said, the most recent season is a comment on the AIDS epidemic and leather clubs and stuff. So it doesn't always stay that way. And so I want to see if it's like a stark difference from Nip Tuck to now, to see if like he's grown and like become more, confident. Obviously I don't know him, and so I don't know his journey, but like I don't know. It's just, I mean, you can see so much of people in their writing. It's like, it's just how
absolutely.
it is. So Murder House has been used in a few other productions. It's been used in Spider-Man. It did not say which one, and I did not look it up. I should have.
Like the
I would
house
guess not
itself?
the new one. Yeah, the house itself.
Okay.
Seabiscuit, which I have not seen that movie in 1,000 years, so couldn't tell you. X-Files. I don't think I've gotten there yet, but I am not surprised. I'm excited to see it. Twilight Zone. Again, not surprised. 6 Feet Under, which is a show I've heard is incredible and have not watched yet.
Same.
Dexter, which I also haven't. I've watched like 6 episodes, but I've decided to go back and read the book. I was talking to Noelle about this, and she said the books are not necessarily better than the TV show. So if you want to read them to get the full context, read them first, because the TV show makes it more interesting. And so I stopped the show, so I'm going to go back. And she said they're short books, and I'm going to read it first. And Buffy, which is another one that I have not watched enough of to like. I think I've watched like 4 episodes of Buffy. So
I've watched almost every episode, but so long ago. Like I watched it when it was on in the 90s, which was probably too old I was probably way too young to actually be watching it, but whatever. So
I was planning it to be my watch after X-Files, so I'm not there yet.
Right.
But yeah, so it's been like around the block. And also it was, I don't think it still is, because I was seeing a lot of different articles. I think it was 2016. The house was actually used as an Airbnb, which is interesting. I'm sure it's a gazillion dollars a night.
Yeah.
And then because I was seeing articles from 2018 where the people who bought the house were suing their realtor because of all of the publicity the house was getting. And they were like, they were never told that this many people were going to come by the house. I was like,
never watched TV?
I was like, here's the thing. There's no doubt in my mind you knew that this house came from American Horror Story. Like, I'm sure the price was astronomical. And so if you paid this price, you know where it came from.
Yeah.
You are in LA and you know how people work. Like, that's not a, hey, heads up, people are coming by. Like, yes, obviously people are coming by.
Correct.
So I was like half reading that, and I was like, I'm not even giving this justice. I'm not even going to read all the articles about it because this is insane.
Yeah.
But then it also at the same time felt like, I was like, are you trying to like profit off of the fact that this is what they did in the show? Like, they wanted to sue Marcy because she didn't tell them about all this stuff. Like, I was like, because that's insane. But that's who wrote the review. The people that bought the house in 2018 are the people that wrote the review.
Come on, Doug. Sell the house.
But like, give us a cut because we figured it out.
Or and, like at least like use it as an Airbnb and let me stay there.
Yeah, that too. That's fine too.
Yeah. But like, so don't charge me.
Oh, of course, no. We don't get we don't get charged. So now we've kind of made it to the discussion portion. I've given you my fun facts, given you the awards, I've given you my review. So this is where we kind of are at the end of our wrap up. So obviously we've got multiple backstories with this season. What was your favorite backstory?
Oh, My favorite backstory. I don't know. I think, as much as I hate to say it, I think Tate is still the most fascinating to me of like how he got there and why he got there. And not that he was like a good person, like, not that he,
Sure.
I don't know. Maybe Tate or maybe Nora. I don't know. I feel like they have so much shit going on.
Yeah, I think Nora's my favorite backstory. Because it's so heartbreaking and she didn't have a chance, even though it was kind of she was between a rock and a hard place because this whole thing came up because they didn't have money because they spent all the money to build this house. And this is what started the entire thing. Like without the
Well, I mean,
Montgomerys,
they
we wouldn't
did
have
spend all the
heard
money to
this.
build the house, but also they didn't. They had the money to build the house. They lost the money because he was on drugs, like
Yes,
because he was
right.
addicted. And then she tried to find a way to save the family and hated every second of it, but it was doing what she could for the money. And then
Mhm.
eventually things got so bad that she knew the only way to save them was to get rid of
To end
him
it all.
and then also get rid of herself. And like that was, yeah, that's
Well, it's heartbreaking. I think it's very uh what's the word, like reminiscent of the time, like because
yeah.
women didn't have other options. They were whatever the men did to support the family was how they were supported. And
Especially
like,
in the social class that they were in.
yeah, and like
Which
trying to
like
keep up the
it's not to
facade that wasn't there.
and it's hard because you think of these things about like social class warfare and things like that, and like the idea of like upper class people not having the same struggles as lower class people, but upper class women almost had it worse than lower class women in a sense that like if a lower class woman tried to get a job, it was like she's got to do something, her family's starving. But like if an upper class woman tried to do something that was outside of what was expected of them, it was not
Yeah.
not acceptable in any way.
And like even if they're looked down upon, like as a lower class woman getting a job, it's like they're already looked down upon because they're a lower class woman. So it's like
Right.
not worse for them. Whereas the upper class, like they like as soon as they fall, it's like a whole
Yeah.
avalanche comes down
Right.
with it. And so it is very like the lower class doesn't have the means to survive and the upper class doesn't have any freedom. It's which side of the grass is greener. um
Uh, none.
yeah. um so this is a little prediction zone. What characters, not cast members, like not the actors themselves, but which characters do you think you'll see again? And do you have any idea how they would fit into a
Oh,
storyline?
I don't have a fucking idea
I
how
figured.
anybody's gonna fit into anything. Um, characters that I think we would see again. I think it would make sense for Billy Dean to come back. That is a logical one. Constance is not unreasonable because the way they left it with Michael makes it seem like that is where they would be going with any continuation issues. Um, I think because we know they flip back and forth between time periods so much in the show, um, I don't think it would be crazy to necessarily have Charles or Nora return in some previous to their death context in a different season. Um, I think the one set of people that I would be the most sure that they wouldn't is the Harmons, because I feel like that story is just too beginning to end and it wouldn't make sense for them to be anywhere else in the show. So that would be my initial gut thoughts.
I love to hear it. Love to hear it. His
I love how hard you're trying not to give any kind of reaction to anything I'm saying right now.
I never will. But I mean, we all kind of know as a running line, there's a little piece of each season in different seasons. So like,
Right.
you know, obviously we're gonna see at least one of these characters again.
Yeah, of course. And obviously I know we see different actors as different characters. Like I know Jessica Lange is back for like in Coven, but not as Constance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like that is
whatever. He had initially wanted to do like his whole thing was to build up the show and use maybe one or two characters from a previous season, but have whole new character sets each time, or whole new cast sets each time. And then I think he just got so bogged down with like Evan Peters, Jessica Lange, Sarah Paulson.
Right, like I was to say, I know Evan Peters comes back, but I don't think Tate comes. Like I don't think Tate coming back would make sense.
I thought you were gonna say Tate. So I was like, she comes back too. Like she's in another.
No. I'm saying like I know Evan Peters and Jessica Lange both are back in other senses, but Constance coming back as Constance is not as unreasonable to me as I don't feel like Tate coming back makes sense with just what I know the other seasons are about.
Yeah. So that's fun. We'll find out. What was your, if we remove Violet's death, what is your favorite plot twist?
Fair, because Violet's death is the only really good one. Not that there weren't other good ones, but that was the only really good one.
That's the one that catches you off guard the most, yeah.
Yeah. I guess the only other one that I feel like was a real plot twist was Tate being Rubber Man. But no, Violet's death is, yeah.
I mean, it is the plot twist that like you watch this show for. But I think the one that like if I was to remove Violet's death, it's a very small one, but I was caught off guard and thoroughly like happily surprised that the baby was still there for Vivian.
Oh, that's fair. That's cute. No, I like that.
Because like overall it's sad. Like, yeah, the baby could have been stillborn and never would have been stuck in the house, but had one breath, so now they're stuck in the house. So overall it's sad, but it builds a beautiful family and like gives Vivian the baby.
Yeah, I mean, and there's like really great moments like when you find out that Larry didn't have anything to do with his family dying in the sense that he claimed. Like there's good moments like, but in terms of an actual like caught me off guard plot twist, Violet dying and Tate being Rubber Man were the only two that really like I felt like were actual. I mean, there's things like I said from the first episode that Tate was dead.
Sure.
And I was so sure even from the beginning that Tate was Constance's son, of her golden child that she talked about.
Yeah.
So those ones didn't shock me because I saw them coming from the first episode. You know what I think might actually be okay. I know what my big one is that is not about Tate or Violet. Okay. Addie dying. I did not expect that. That got me. I really did not expect that. Addie dying and then not being a ghost and not coming back and like just genuinely being dead and gone. That was a lot for me.
Yeah, that was a rough one. Yeah, I think I always like forget to place that one because she doesn't come back. Like once she's dead, she's real dead. Like yeah. So I just want to touch on what you were talking about with Larry. Like, he's not all as bad as you see him as because, like, yes, he cheated on his wife. yes, this kind of led the mom to burn everything down, but he didn't burn them down. He didn't
Oh,
kill his family. And that's one thing, and we see it with Tate a lot too. That's one thing that Ryan Murphy does really, really well is not one character is 100% evil. And not one character is 100% good. Like they all have
right.
something they've done wrong and they have something that's redeeming about them. And it makes
Yeah.
and I think that builds in the horror sense. It's like, this is like, it almost makes it a little more real because you're like, these
Yeah.
aren't these extremely evil characters. These aren't made up and they're based off of people that actually existed. So it's like, these are real people that real things could have happened to. And while it's not like I don't live these lives, I'm not in this house. Of course, we aren't like living in a haunted house with ghosts where the house is telling everyone what to do.
Yeah.
Um, but there are school shootings. There are like bullies at school, like Violet had. There are children who die. There are parents who kill their children. Like these are all
Yeah.
things that kind of happen in real life that do
Oh my
make
God.
it
I
a
just saw a
reality
new
horror story.
I just saw a news article today about a baby that was born preemie and actually made it home from the NICU, and then the father killed it as soon as it got home.
Ugh. See, like, so
Like
it's the
that's fucking worse than a demon ghost in your
yeah,
house, like in my opinion.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one thing he really leans into is he leans into the horrors of
Of
humanity as opposed to
humanity.
the
Yeah.
horrors of like ghosts and demons. I mean, those are included because for the sake of the show, but it's not, it's like it's just not the main focus
But like
as
in
much
this
as you
show,
think it would
being
be.
a ghost doesn't necessarily mean anything evil. Like,
Right.
um, like Bo never did a single wrong thing, even as a
Yep.
ghost.
Yep.
Um, Moira is questionable, but I feel like her heart's in the right place. She's not
Yeah,
evil,
she
she's
is.
just bitter.
Right.
Um, but like being dead, it gave and Patrick, Chad and Patrick. I, I don't know. They're again, I don't really think they're evil. I just think they're fucked up. Like,
Yeah. I think they became ghosts in such a bad situation that it rolled over
yeah,
into their afterlife and they couldn't, it was something
right.
else they couldn't escape from.
Yeah. But yeah, so like being dead doesn't make you a bad person. Being a
Yeah.
ghost doesn't make you a bad person. Like shit, Travis did nicer things as a ghost than some of the living people did not as ghosts. Like,
Yeah. And the Harmons, when they died, they were all very kind. Like they,
yeah.
were decorating a Christmas tree and they were like making sure no one stayed in the house to get hurt. Like they were like, you can't have a baby in this house. It'll be a demon. Like,
Right.
so they were, it's, yeah, it really kind of flips the script on like what's real horror and what's not and whatnot.
Yeah.
Um, so we kind of summed it up, but as a overall vibe, I wanted to know, because we're not doing a DNA award, who in this entire season would be your like overall punch them in the face?
We're all punched in the face. Oh, fuck me. Probably Constance.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, like, and maybe it's because she's still around to fuck people's lives up. Like, maybe
Yeah.
that's what it is. Like, at the end of the show, who is still gonna hurt somebody? Constance. Like,
Yeah. I think she's a very good choice. I think I'd probably go Tate.
that was the only that was
Um,
the other one I was thinking.
I think Constance is a better choice because I agree. I think she is very manipulative and she knows what she's doing all of the time. And
Yeah.
at least Tate some of
I
the
mean,
time tries to do the right thing.
Tate is young and immature and wrong and not a good person, but
Yeah.
there's a level of naivety to it that you almost pity. Constance knows what she's doing.
Yeah. And
Constance
like Tate
deliberate.
sometimes does try to do nice things, whereas Constance only does nice things when they like benefit her.
No, and like Constance deliberately lies to everyone
Mm-hmm.
at
Yep.
every turn.
Absolutely. So on the same note, who would be your overall MVP?
Violet. I don't think there's another answer. I mean, I think there's other good characters, but I don't think there's another answer.
I think I would choose Vivian.
That's fair. I mean, that's the only other person you could
Yeah.
pick, but
And I think it's because while I do love Violet, I think she has kind of a mixed bag, and it's because she's a teenager. It's not because she's a bad person, but she
right.
makes bad decisions because she's a teenager. But Vivian, like beginning to end, always is trying to do the best for everyone around her. Like she
Sometimes.
wants to
I
protect.
see. Yes and no. I think Vivian in the first 2 or 3 episodes made some of the dumbest decisions you could
Well, she was
make.
dumb, yeah.
Yeah.
But
And
like
I think,
when the kidnappers broke into the house, she did everything she could in her power to protect Violet.
oh, for
Whenever
sure.
like
Oh no, she's a great mother. I just think she's
yeah,
a stupid woman. And
I think she yeah, I think she has a
the
lot of
same way
manipulating to do.
I think that Ben is a great father and a shitty person. Like you can
Yeah,
be both.
right. Yes, I agree. 100%. I like the growth I see in Vivian throughout because
That's
like
fair.
she does well, yes, starts out very dumb, very naive, and just like very single-minded. But throughout she kind of like she builds her relationship with Moira and she knows that like she's stuck here forever, I'm stuck here forever. And like she needs a purpose, and this is now her purpose is to help with this
Yeah.
baby. And like we're gonna protect this house, and I'm never gonna give up on Violet. Like Violet's my firstborn, and she's always gonna be my child and my my baby, and I'm always gonna protect her. And like she
Yeah.
just has the instinct to kind of make sure the pieces all go together in the end, um, where they need to be. So I just love her, and I mean Connie Britton, bless her heart. One of the reviews, I didn't pick this one obviously, was like all the cast is great. Connie was terrible at everything she did, and I was like, excuse you. So it's the same person probably that said Janet was useless in Stargate. So, um,
To be fair, I will say that Connie Britton probably, I think that while Vivian had some growth, and I think obviously I love Connie Britton, I do think that Vivian was written as one of the least dynamic characters,
mm-hmm,
which makes it
I agree.
hard to stand out when you've got the craziness that is going on in some of the other characters. But the fact that she was able to hold her own with the most static character of
Yeah.
this show shows that she's a great actress.
Yep, I absolutely agree. Well, they said she was terrible in everything she was in. I was like, okay, well, calm down.
In everything? I'm sorry,
Yeah,
have you watched Friday Night Lights? Do not talk about
right.
Tammy Taylor like that.
Yes. So I love Connie Britton. So don't come at me with her. So that kind of wraps up our discussion for Murder House. I do want to ask you. We've talked about the next season is going to be Asylum. You
Yes.
haven't seen it. You don't know the
No.
storyline.
Correct.
What kind of storyline do you hope they place on it? Like, is there a traditional trope of asylum horror that you would like it to go in a direction of?
Um, I hope that somebody is actually a psychic vampire like Alice Cullen and that when I think of
Okay.
asylums, that's what I think of.
That's okay because there's no way for you to have a good basis to make a prediction.
No,
So I
like
want your hopes and dreams instead.
so I hope we have a psychic vampire. I hope that there is a really aggressive nun who is secretly a lesbian. Um, I hope that I hope that they don't touch anybody's eyeballs in any of the
We
weird
talked about that
medical
in White Grove.
experience they do.
Yeah,
I don't do eyeballs. Um, yeah, that's that's what I those are my three big hopes.
I'm ready to watch your reaction. But
Those
before
are
that,
those are like three of the most ridiculous, probably unrelated to anything that could potentially happen in the show. But that's where I'm at. To be fair,
you
like I
never
said, I
know.
don't do a lot of horror, so I don't really know what
Yeah,
asylum tropes are.
sure. That's why I'm letting you make up your own. It's all right.
Yeah.
But before we get to Asylum, we do have another show which will be announced next week. What show we're moving on to? Because in the meantime, we do have our horror film, And we're throwing it back to a traditional film. Again, we can't get away from them. We're going to be covering the original Exorcist movie. I have forgotten where was that. I meant to look it up again before we recorded.
We did. We wrote this down the other day.
We sure did. We talked about it. We looked it up to make sure we were prepared, and then
was it on Hulu? No.
No. It is the one.
It's on Prime. It's on Prime. Or no, it's on HBO Max.
HBO Max. You're right.
It's on HBO Max or Amazon Prime. I think it says Amazon Prime Premium subscription.
Probably the Max subscription.
Oh, okay. So yeah, if you have HBO Max.
Yeah, but I'm sure you can also, like, if you don't have Max for some reason, you probably could rent it off of Amazon for just a few bucks, because it is and if you had Discovery Plus, you now have Max as well, because they've combined. So yeah. So
if you have AT&T with unlimited data, you probably also have HBO Max, because it's cheaper to have both than not.
Yeah. So so we're gonna get ready to do The Exorcist, which I've never seen, you've never seen.
Correct.
But it's a classic. So I hope we are not hiding under our beds by the end of it, but we'll see.
I'm a little bit nervous.
70, so hopefully.
I've got like 2 weeks to prepare myself to watch it though, so it's fine.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit nervous too. All right. So that's where we'll leave you with American Horror Story. If you want to reach out about this season, if you want to reach out about your thoughts on The Exorcist, no spoilers, please feel free to email us, deathandaliens@gmail.com. You can find us on all of the social media at Death and Aliens. If you want to talk about future American Horror Story movies, I'm currently like real deep diving into season 12. So feel free to reach out to me directly at CECloud13.
If you'd like to talk to me about anything that does not involve American Horror Story, you can follow me at EMKAY_superstar.
And we'll see you for our DNA awards on Sunday for Stargate, first 3 seasons, and then The Exorcist. Bye.